Hello everyone, welcome to the stream. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Trent, and I see we have some people in the chat. Brian, welcome from the windy UK. Yeah, we've been having some pretty extreme wind and rain these past couple days here in the northeastern US. And hello Hector, thanks for joining. So for those who haven't been here before, thanks for dropping in. Usually I do some type of prepared topic based on, design or some type of technology, I guess. And then I go to a Q&A session. But some weeks I just do Q&A, and that will be one of these weeks today. So I'll just be answering questions that I got on my videos. But also if you have other questions, feel free to post them in the chat, and I'll try to answer them the best I can. Hi Teak, hi Vegas Guy. Live number 2 for you, cool. And hope you're all doing well. I noticed on a couple of my last live streams, the sound was a little staticky. It seemed to be peaking a little bit. I'm not sure why that happened, but I think I may have fixed it. I turned down the levels a little bit and did a couple of little things. So hopefully doesn't have that little staticky sound to it. No problem if you can't stay, Vegas Guy. It's not a problem at all. Hi, Segment Terra. Hi, Joe from upstate New York. And hi, 2112. Saul. Couple little announcements. Next week there won't be a stream. It's Thanksgiving weekend. Thanksgiving's actually a Thursday always here in America, but probably I won't have a lot of time to prepare anything for next week, so there won't be one next Sunday, but I should be back a week after that, the 8th or so. And so yeah, just give you a little heads up if you are in the US and celebrating Thanksgiving. Hope you have a good one. Hope your travel isn't too crazy or anything like that. I'm not going too far myself, so it'll be pretty easy going, I think. Vegas Guy, you're asking what mic and audio interface am I using? So I have my mic. It's a Yeti Blue. I bought it several years ago. So it's one of those popular ones. I think it was like $99, and that's what I got. So that's kind of what I use in terms of audio interface and all that. I use OBS to stream, so I just have my mic hooked up, and then OBS, I can add it as a source. So I don't really have anything crazy going. Thanks for letting me know the sound is okay today, Brian. Hi, IH. Hi, Trendy Warehouse Shop from the Netherlands, Joan. And Teak, you're also off next week. Yeah, cool. So I guess, maybe many people will be off. But yeah, Vegas guys, basically what I do, I have the Yeti, like I said, the Yeti Blue. I bought it 2019 or so. So it's probably one of the older versions, but it seems to work perfectly fine for me. The only thing I don't like is that the mute button. There used to be a light that would go on when I press mute. Now it doesn't go on anymore, so I just ignore the mute button now. So that's that. Hi, Matrix Tech from Detroit. Yeah, I thought I'd just mention a couple things up front. There's some Black Friday sales going on. Affinity's having the big one, and this is kind of like, if you're on the fence, like this is about as good as it gets, 50% off. I don't get paid to say this or anything. I just know people always ask me, like, when's the next sale going to happen? So I thought I'd mention it. So if you go to their website here, you can get the whole thing. It shows you all the stuff. But so usually, like, all 3 programs on all 3 operating systems. So for $83. And I think that's what I did a couple years ago. I think that was like initially how I bought it. So that's, if you don't have it, it's a pretty good opportunity to get it. And I haven't, like I said, I don't really use it on iPad much. That's kind of one of my shortcomings. They got a lot of requests for iPad tutorials. I should do that, but I have it installed on my Windows and Mac machine. It's super useful to just be able to go back and forth and run it all there. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on there. And probably that's about as good as it gets in terms of sales. So I would say check that out if you're on the fence. Creative Fabrica is also doing some sales too. So I use them a lot for fonts and stuff like that. You kind of notice in a lot of my recent videos, I've been doing more fonts. So I just download unlimited there. And some of the fonts, they cost like hundreds of dollars if you look at them plainly, if you look at like what they actually cost, but they're just part of like the subscription. So I subscribe for like $4 a month, and I can just download all the fonts I want. Reading some of your comments. Vegas Guy, you're saying you'll buy a bunch of brushes. Yeah, brushes will be cool. Saul, You now own all three for your MacBook Pro. Cool. Yeah. I need to get a new MacBook. Mine's from like 2015. It holds up really well, but probably I need to upgrade at some point. I mostly just use it for Chrome. So I thought I'd get into your questions now. So I got this question from Aran Janath, who said he's unable to purchase the apps. I just put this question front because it was relevant to what we're talking about. Yeah, I always see this like every time there's a sale. Some people say they can't buy it for some reason. I would say contact support. Usually they're pretty good about that. And I remember this happened last time too. For some reason, some people couldn't buy it. I don't know what the issue is, if it's like the credit card or the payment processor isn't working. Some countries have a problem with it. But I'll just say contact Affinity support. Usually this happens and usually they're able to fix it. Joe, reading your question. Yeah, you took advantage of the full Affinity 2 suite deal when it was launched. Yeah, if you like upgraded, there was a discount or something, so that was pretty nice. But yeah, if you're having trouble buying it, I would say contact the support team. They're pretty responsive. All right, so I got this other question. So I made a video a couple weeks ago about another font video. And the question from Gorman Graphics was, how can you change the color of a paintbrush after you apply it? So let's look at that here. This kind of goes for all the programs, but I'll just create something in Affinity Photo here. I'll just create something like this. Whoops, not 30,000. So there's a couple ways to change the color of a paintbrush, and I'll show you a few. Let me choose the brush here. Let's choose some kind of texture brush, like, I don't know, dry media. I think I like this crayon or chalk one. Just kind of paint. And I'll just kind of paint here. Maybe I make some type of sphere or something like that. So the question is like, how do you change the color of this? And there's a few, like there's the adjustments way, and then there's like the paintbrush way. So the adjustments way is with the pixel layer selected, you can actually add like an HSL or recolor adjustment. So if I add an adjustment here, I can say HSL. And then what happens is this allows me to shift the hue around. So I can take the hue and I can rotate it around like that. And I can change the color if I like. You can just kind of put it to whatever you want. And it can be a little hard to get the exact color you want. Like you might want, maybe I want it this, but I want like less saturated, and maybe there's a specific color I want. You kind of have to learn how to like zero in on it. But that's an option. You can do that. Probably the recolor adjustment also will work. This, you can, this is where you could do like something exactly specific. But I think from a digital painting perspective, one very common technique is to use the alpha lock on the brush itself. And I'm actually going to make a video on this. I actually just shot it yesterday. But if you've ever used Photoshop, you're probably familiar with this concept of alpha locking. So if I select a brush, in Photoshop, what you can do is you can lock the transparency on a layer. And this is the same thing in Procreate. And you can actually just paint on the pixels that are there, so you won't go outside of your bounds. But in Affinity, this is a property of the brush, not the layer. So I have my brush tool selected here. You can see the brush. And this is always off screen because I have it minimized. But if I click the arrow up here, this kind of gives me more options for my current tool. So if I select this, what I can do is I can select Protect Alpha. And let me turn off wet edges. So Protect Alpha. So what the alpha means, the level of transparency. So when I paint on something, the alpha value is going to stay the same. In other words, I can't paint on pixels that I'm not already painting on. So you can go through and you can change the color like this. And I can do the whole thing. Now, kind of the real power of this technique is that you don't have to repaint your whole image here. You can just repaint part of it. So maybe I want to add a shadow on one side. So I can choose like a darker blue. And I can kind of like paint one side like this. Maybe I want the other side to be brighter. So I'll select this side, select the color, make the color a little bit brighter. And I can, do this. This is kind of the world's worst shaded sphere, but you kind of get the point. Like you can kind of, I'm limiting it to just this area here. So that's a really powerful way to do it. Something else that you can do is, this kind of goes into the locking thing. First of all, when you set alpha lock, remember to turn it off later, because what happens is Later on, you'll be doing another layer and you'll select your brush and you'll be painting and nothing will happen. And the reason this happens is because, well, it's because I still have Protect Alpha enabled. And if you don't have any pixels to paint on, the alpha is transparent, so it's not going to let you paint on anything. So now I can go and I can paint on a new layer there. So always, that's a thing that like gets a lot of people, and it gets me sometimes too. I'm just going back to a brush and it's totally not working. But what you can also do is, let's create a new one here. Again, let's create a sphere. You can clip into a pixel layer to keep its shape. So this is called clipping. So if I create another pixel layer here, let's call this shadow. So a common thing may be, okay, I want to shade in the left side of this. So I'll create a darker color. I'll select multiply. And you might want to like shade in the side here. But you can see I'm going outside the bounds like that. Like I'm not contained to this thing. What I can do is I can drag this into the pixel layer down here. So in Photoshop, when you clip it, you kind of see like an arrow, like you stack the things above the layers when you clip it. But for Affinity, I'll drag it into the pixel layer here. I'll let go. And now you can see this pixel layer is inside here. Now when I paint my shadow, it's only going to show what is on this pixel layer here up top. So it's only going to reveal like what's enabled there. So this is a very common thing that you see a lot in digital painting. So I'll add another pixel layer. Maybe this one I'll say highlight. I'll set it to, I don't know, color dodge or something. Let's see why is it not going. Change something else. I'll change it to screen. Yeah. So again, not the most elegant effect, but it kind of shows you that you can contain something to a shape. You can smudge it around if you want. Oh, that's not working either. It's working a little bit, but it's very subtle. But this is kind of one of the ways you can recolor things and do that. So to answer the question in the original thing, that's kind of how you can do it. You can use adjustments to rotate the color, or you can do alpha lock and paint on your paint again if you want to get more sophisticated effects like that. So for example, this one, the hero, let's do this. So I said, and I think the font, I'm trying to remember the name of the font. Hopefully I have it installed on this computer. I should, yeah. So what I did is I made the color like, I don't know, this. Then I added a pixel layer. And let's add some dark color. So if I paint across like that, that's what it looks like. But when I drag the pixel layer into the text down here, now you can see it's contained. And if I select another color on my brush, let's say I want to change this dark purple to green just to make it show up. I'll alpha lock my brush, protect alpha, and now I can paint it and make it another color. So that's how you can do that. So hopefully that helped Gorman Graphics. I got another question. I sometimes get questions on this video about it not working and the transparent text technique. So let's look at this a little bit. It was from Kanu Nicholas, and he said when he tried to do it, it wasn't working. And I followed up with him, and eventually he got it working. So let me show you what was happening. Saul, reading your question. The OCIO feature. Yeah, that was one I used a while ago. I've barely used that one, but let's look at that real quick. I think it's something. Yeah, this was like some color space preset thing, and like it's very kind of niche. I talked about it briefly a long time ago, but for me, didn't really use it too much. So that's yeah, I'm not an expert on that feature. But if you search the Affinity forums, I think they have some more people talking about that. I did cover it in my adjustment layers video, in my adjustment settings video. But I never really looked into it too deeply. Vegas guy, reading your question, is there an easy way to replicate the libraries function in Adobe for the Affinity Suite? For example, having commonly used logos for a client. Yeah, there's the way you can like link documents. There's also like the asset library here, so you can go to Window, Assets, which isn't showing for some reason. Window, Assets, and you can like store things like that too. So that's another way to do it. What else is there? I think that's the main one. I believe I have a video on this. Sometimes I forget what I have videos on or not. But I think if you search my channel for Asset Manager, you might see a video on this. I think it's there. And all the stuff you can kind of store. So I haven't used the library feature recently on Adobe, but I think that's the closest that you can get. So let's check this one out, the transparent text. Let me just find an image where we can do this on. Let me find some city or something. Ah, found the same image. Good. No problem, Vegas guy. Okay, so let's have some text here. So I'll just use the artistic text tool. Text, let's make it thick here. Again, I'm just gonna make it an obnoxious color so we can see it. Now the thing is, you want to cut this text out of something else. So let's do that. So let's create a rectangle. Hi Dandy, thanks for joining. Storm Burt is rattling your windows. Okay, I haven't heard of Storm Burt. Where is that? Is that in which coast is that off of? Is that off the West Coast or? I know some of my friends in the Pacific Northwest were having issues. So I have this text here. I put it above the rectangle. So the key thing you want to do is use a blend mode called erase. And I like this because it's non-destructive. Like we could use a Boolean operation to cut this text out of the shape, but let's see, this way is actually non-destructive. So with my text selected, these are the blend modes here. Normal is the default. I'll go down and I'll select erase. The UK, okay, yeah. I've heard that from Brian mentioned earlier that the UK was quite windy there. So I guess you guys are both experiencing the same thing. So I set the text to erase. Now the problem is you can see it's like cutting through the whole document. So you're getting this, the checkerboard means it's like you're seeing the transparency behind your whole thing. And really the whole key to this technique is you want to group the text and the rectangle together. So I'll select both of them and I'll right click and I'll say group, or I could press Control G. I like to just do menu options so you guys can see what I'm doing. And once you do that, the cutout effect, it's cutting out of the rectangle here, and then it's compositing that onto your image below, okay? And what you can do is you can actually change this text too, so I can say, you know, city or something like that. So that's the whole trick to this thing, is that you want to make sure you have this in a group. If you take it out of the group, you're going to cut through your whole image, your whole canvas there. So I'll put it back in. And that's kind of the trick there. So hopefully that answered the question of Kanu. I think it did because I replied to his comment and he said it was working. So that's how you do that trick. It's a quick little trick, but just you kind of just need to know that grouping thing. Got this question from Broken Church Girl 720. So this is from my OBS tutorial. She said, "Thank you for this tutorial. Do you think you will do any more?" Yeah, I think I will do some more. I'm trying to branch out to other stuff besides just, you know, Affinity and design. So I'm doing, like I said, I did a bunch of DaVinci Resolve videos. I just filmed them. We'll probably be doing a lot of other software too in the new year. OBS is kind of tricky because OBS is what I use to record my screen as I'm doing the video. So when I make a video about using OBS, I have two OBSs and one is recording the other, and they compete for the camera, and there's all this conflict. So this video didn't come out as well as I wanted it to. There was some frustration there, but I think I will go back to this topic because it actually it got a lot of views and it's getting more all the time. So I think it is something I want to talk more about. It's a tool I use a lot, so I think it's cool. So short answer is yes, I will be doing more OBS tutorials. One of the big bottlenecks I have on my channel is editing, and I'm actually looking now talking to some people about hiring them as an editor. So hopefully when that's done, I'll be able to get much more videos out now. But I essentially do every single thing on my channel myself right now. I write them, shoot them, edit them, thumbnails, all that stuff. So I'm hoping to offload the editing to someone else in the new year, and that will, I think, maybe accelerate the pace of videos coming out. So I'm looking forward to that, and that'll definitely will let me experiment with more topics. Reading your question, could you please explain the pixel brush tool? Sure, let's check that out for a second. Honestly, it's not one I use too much, but I think if you're doing like pixel art or something like that, I'm saying the pixel tool here. I mean, I think essentially it is just going to give you more of like a pixel level control. So I did that kind of fast, but I'm in Affinity Photo here. If you right click on your brush area, you can select the pixel tool. And I think it's just a little bit easier for doing like these types of blocks. Because even if you select like a normal brush, like the paintbrush, if I make it like super small, well, I can't even make it smaller, I don't think. Well, let's do this. Let's see if I can make this brush smaller. Even if I do like for my brush, if I do like a basic round brush, I mean, it's very, these brushes, they're always trying to like be clever with anti-aliasing and stuff like that, and whatever, interpolation between the pixels. Whereas the pixel brush itself, if you actually just have to do exact square pixel by pixel things, this is kind of the way to do it. I haven't explored a lot of the options here, but they seem kind of similar to a lot of the other tools, I guess. I guess the length, the rope thing. Have I done that? Yeah, you can kind of like drag. I guess you can kind of like drag it around if you wanted. This is kind of a common feature of some of the stuff. I don't know if this would be easier or harder, but it kind of depends on what you're trying to do. But yeah, let me know if that answers your question about the pixel brush. Like I said, I haven't used it too much, but I've used it a few times when I just had to make like exact pixel adjustments to things. I can't remember if it's in Affinity Design or if it's in the pixel persona. Yeah, it is. Okay, so if you create a new document, so this would be like if you wanted to create like, I don't know, an icon that's like, I don't know, it's like 16 by 16 pixels or something, right? And you have your, pixel view mode? I thought that would like show me the thing, but apparently not. Where did it go? Oh, yeah. So, this would be like if you wanted to do some type of icon and you like literally needed to do exact pixels. That's what you would do. So that's the extent of my knowledge on that tool. All right, next question from Adrian. He says he was looking at some fonts online and he saw lots of split fonts. And how would you use them in Affinity? Thanks. Yeah, so we chatted about this a little bit last week, so I'll go over it again. Because whenever we did that typography stream, I think it was last week. So a lot of fonts, they'll have several different files in them. So some that, let me give you an example of a basic font that doesn't. So if you do Arial, right, it's like Arial font. It's like it's just one font and you kind of just type it and you use it, right? Some fonts are meant to be layered. So this was I did a video about this font called the Beardsons font recently. So if you select it, you'll find like there's this kind of normal view of it, which is kind of cool. It's all right. But if I can make another one, there's another type of Beardsons font called inline. So I download these. I have a whole video on this from a couple weeks ago if you check it out. There's the inline one. So if I select inline, let me ignore the spelling here. This is the inline one. And by itself, it looks pointless. Like you're never really going to use this by itself. But if I change the color of it, what I can do is I can put it over the other text here. And then it kind of adds a little bit of decoration to that other one. Okay. So there's two different layers to make up this design. And then there's actually a third one too, which is the shadow. So this is the shadow. Again, you're not just going to use this by itself probably, but I can change it to something. And then I can put it behind the other text. And I can offset it a little bit. And it creates like a shadow. So these color combinations aren't that great, but you know, it looks better if I don't know, give some type of brown background. And then maybe, I don't know, white or something. Can't remember what color I made it in the video. Maybe the shadow, would it be black? You know, you can kind of go and change it from there. So that's kind of how you work with these. Hey, John, thanks for the Thanksgiving wishes. Hope you're doing well also. Hope you guys have a good time up there. No problem, 2112 for the answer. So like I said, this is kind of how to use these type of fonts. You're going to have 3 different like layers to get the full effect. You just want to overlap them on top of each other. And, you know, you can change the colors to make them look better and stuff like that. So that's how you do that. Let's check out the next one. So I got this question from Briera. When would you want to clip the layer to the thumbnail or picture? Yeah, let's check that out a little bit. So we were kind of looking at this a little bit in this other thing here. Let me just create a new document instead. So let's say I add a word. Again, I don't know, title, something. And I made my word a certain color. And you want to add some type of texture to it, so I'll go back to my brush. Let's choose one of our texture brushes. So again, I can drag it in here like, so the key thing is I drag it over the title here. And now it's inside that. Now, something you can also do here, what I just did is I dragged this over the name title, over that part. You can also drag it over the thumbnail here, and that does something different. So let me drag this here, let go, and that has a different effect. So this is basically just like a masking effect. So the question of when you'd want to do it is really like when you want to create a mask, and that's the only difference. It's just that a lot of times, you know, I'll be showing people how to do this way, and they'll accidentally drag it the other way, like this. And that's fine. That's something you can do if you're trying to create a mask, but usually it's not, you know, it's different than this other thing here. So that's just kind of the answer to that. You're creating a mask when you do that. So anytime you'd want to mask out your text. So for example, in this case, maybe if I drag it over here, maybe I want my text to look really rough, and I want to, so I want to do this type of thing, right? Let's see. I know why, because it's doing the level of transparency. So I could erase it. Where's my eraser? You can actually set a brush for the erasers too, by the way, just so you know. Like, so I selected the eraser down here. Where was it? The eraser? Erase brush tool. And then I'll go and I'll set the texture for it. Now on this mask here, I'll start painting it out. You know, and I can make my text look a little more distressed or something like that. Now this is kind of a special situation here because when you do a mask like this on a vector, the mask is going to behave on the level of transparency in it as opposed to levels of black and white. That's kind of a little beyond the scope of this current chat, but just something to kind of keep in mind that that's the effect it's having here. But yeah, that's essentially what you're doing, is creating a mask when you drag over the title here. And when you drag over the name part, you're clipping into it. So if I drag there, that's a different thing than there. So yeah, that's the difference between those two things. Arc9 Prenner reading your question. So you're saying when you export to a PNG, what are the primaries and transfer functions? Huh, that's a good question. I don't know. Let's check it out. usually I don't have an issue with it. Again, let's do this. File. Why can't export? So PNG. Oh, down here. Yeah, I've never really used this actually. I suppose if you don't know what it's for, probably it's not that important. But yeah, if anyone in the chat knows what these do, I don't know like what settings these are. If there's some type of compression settings or something like that. I mean, a lot of this stuff kind of, that's what strikes me as, you know, the algorithms for, you know, sampling and that type of thing. I don't know, is it, if it's blocking you or something, I just say just worry about this top part, I think is what really matters there. I don't really change any of this down here. But Arc9 printer, let me know, like, have you been able to do things successfully just using this top part? Because I think that's usually enough for me. I've never worried too much about what's down here. So let me know. Got this question from El Mercor. I'm looking to use Affinity making stencil designs. Is there a way to make any font into a stencil so you can export it as a SVG? Then you can use it in a CAD program. I don't know of an automated way, but I think you can manually do it. Let's look at an example here. Might as well use the same file here. So when we talk about stencil design, what happens is you want to make sure you don't have any free floating elements, right? So A, B, C, D, E. So this, we couldn't make a stencil out of this because it would kind of fall apart because the areas inside the A, B, and D are floating, right? So these parts, you know, you've seen stencil before, you know, you can't have something floating like that in the middle. So with a stencil, typically what you have to do is you have to have some type of part of it where you can kind of like, you know, cut out areas so that things are connected to your main part, you know, like that. Now, I don't know of like an automated way to do it. You can manually do it. So what I'd say, the way I was looking at it is, I didn't find a way to do it leaving this as text. But if you convert the curves, you can cut out of it in a somewhat non-destructive way. So if you have this text here, what I'll do is I'll convert it to curves. I'll right-click on the layer here. And actually, I'll just go, there's a button, but yeah, convert to curves. So now I have my text here as a all these different curves. I'll just drag them out of the group. They don't need to be grouped. And something I also do, maybe I'll just like add it all together so it's one curve, so our life is a little bit simpler. So with all these selected, I'll just click the Boolean plus up here. And when I do that, it just creates it as one shape. So again, not strictly necessary, but something that can work. Now what you may want to try to do is if you create a rectangle, you can kind of do what we were doing before. So if I put this over here, remember we had that erase blend mode? So you can put this here. And if I said erase, normal erase, it'll cut it out like that. Now the problem with this is that I think when you do this blend mode like this, it can't convert this to a vector effect. It's going to rasterize this. So let me export that and show you what it means. Export. Actually, let me set the background. Make the background transparent. Okay, so we have a transparent background here. So it looks nice, right? Like I have this thing here where the A is cut out. So let me export it. File, export. So again, it looks good. Let's export it somewhere. Put on my C drive somewhere. Actually, I screwed up because I meant to export as an SVG. File, export. We want to export as an SVG because we want a graphic. So I won't export it, but what I'll show you is that you can actually see what's happening here. It's rasterizing this. So it's going to call it an SVG file, but what it's going to do is it's going to embed this graphic in our SVG. I will do it. Let me just do it so we can see it. So you can see the problem, and then we can look at how to solve it. Again, let's go here. All right, so I exported it. Let me open it now. All right, so we exported that title here. Let's open it in Edge. Well, it's not really going to help. Let's open it in Affinity. And you can see it converted it to a graphic. Because when you do those subtract operations, it doesn't know how to actually like vectorize it. But the good news is we can actually find a way around that. So the way around that is to use the compound Boolean operations. So I have this rectangle here. Let's put it back to normal again. Vegas guy, reading your comments. You were introduced to the face, people naming their kids A, B, C, D, E. Oh, gee, interesting. Wow. I never heard of that. That's a very, I wonder why people would do that. Maybe to get ahead in line or something. But, you know, I always know like Aaron is like the best name for like, you know, being alphabetized first. Maybe you could do AAA Aaron. Javier, nice to have you here. Thanks for joining. No problem being late. So what we could do destructively is we could take this thing and we could make it, we could like actually subtract it here with the Boolean operation. So we could do this. And then this will actually work. We can export this as a vector. A slightly less destructive way is we can use the compound Boolean operations. So if I have both of these selected, if I alt-click on this, now it creates a compound here. And it's very similar, but the nice thing is that instead of permanently doing that Boolean effect, I can now move this line around where I want. And I can actually, so if you see here, the structure is a little bit different. We have this compound thing here, and on the base level we have our curve, and then the shapes above it, a Boolean operation is being applied to the thing down below. I'm trying to draw as many lines as possible. So this is, let me redo that again so you see the difference. When I do this destructively, I'll select this, I'll do the destructive method, I'll click on subtract up here, subtract, and I just get a result like this. I can't go back and change it later. Let me undo that. The alternate way is to alt-click on subtract here. So I'll alt-click on this, and it's a non-destructive effect. So it creates a group where the rectangle is having the Boolean subtract effect on the thing below it. And I can hold Alt and I can copy it. So I can do that. I can do this. Maybe, I don't know, let's do this. That's our stencil. Now if I export it as an SVG file, this will actually be a vector. So I'll export, let's do title 2. And let's open it up. And now, yeah, you can see it's a true vector now. So I have all the points and stuff like that. So that's how I would recommend doing that, using the, if you need to make a stencil, manually make your own, as far as I know. And then you can kind of subtract it how you want, but I like the compound method, so it's non-destructive. You can kind of go and tweak things later. You can move this around how you want and change it. So that's how you make a stencil. All right, let's go to the next question. Got this question from GR, who says, in the video last week in the live stream, I mentioned I used a low resolution brush for the clipping mask. How can you tell the difference between the resolution of the brushes in the Brush Studio? Yeah, that was just referring to the size of the brush. So when I was doing something, if I'm painting here, select the color, you know, the resolution of the brush is just going to be your size up here, really. That's kind of all I was referring to. So, and again, it's going to, you know, your document size is also going to affect it. So my document size is how big here. So, it's 1920 by 1080. So you can use the highest resolution brush on earth, but it's not going to matter. Your document size is, still limited to that. So really, it was just the fact that the main thing is when you're using vectors with brushes together. So if I'm in Affinity Designer here, if I create some new text, let's create a new file. So if I do new from clipboard, well, I don't want to do that. Actually, I mean new document, period, not new from clipboard. File, new. So I'll create something in pixels. Let's say, I don't know, 2000 by 1000. Now I'm creating this document. This is the size I'm creating it in pixels, right? So I'll create it. Now, even though it's only 1000 by 2000 in pixels, if I create some vector shape like text, I could actually export this to be any resolution I wanted, because this is a vector shape. So I could export this at 10,000 by 10,000 pixels, and it would have great resolution because it's just a vector shape. Text is a vector. Same thing if I made some other shapes, here, other vector shapes. It can actually upscale those infinitely. The problem comes when I actually start using raster operations, okay? So then if I start using a paintbrush, so let me select my paintbrush here. Now I have to actually worry about like what is the size of the paintbrush here. So if I make it bigger, again, let's use some type of more interesting brush. Like that, like I said, I can output this at 1 billion by 1 billion pixels, and the text and the shapes will look great, but still you will get like this, the paint stroke itself, because that's the pixel part of it, that's the raster part. This will have a resolution over here, This can't be upscaled infinitely for quality, but the vector parts can. So it's just something to keep in mind when you're mixing vectors and raster operations like a paintbrush. The raster operations are going to they're going to have a limited resolution, unless you're doing some sophisticated AI-based like upscaling, which exists. Hey, Grizzly Hands from Poland, thanks for joining. Teak, reading your question. You have a student asking how do you export from Canva. Sure, let's look at that. It's fairly straightforward. I'll show you. So I'm here in Canva. Whoops. Trying to be in Canva. I don't know. Let's look at something I created recently. Some type of thing like this, right? So the way you export something in Canva is you click the share button. So share up here, share. And then you can then you click download. And then it gives you all these different formats you can choose from. And it's going to depend if you're on the Pro plan or not, but the options you get, most of these are on the free plan. The crowns are things you can only do on the Pro plan. So like SVG, you can only do on the Pro plan, but that's basically how you do it. And then you say if you want transparent background, you can change the size. So basically the answer is like in Canva, click share, and then download, and that's how you export from Canva. You can change all the things there. So I hope that helps, Teak. So I got this question from Doug Dina. I made a video recently about color decontamination and how to fix it. And the question was, when would you not want to use that? Like why would you not want to use it? So first of all, let's review briefly what it is. No problem, Teak. 2112, reading your question. So you're saying in Photoshop you create a web page using the slice and select tools. What alternative would work just as well with the Affinity programs? So I haven't done it too much in Affinity, but I think probably Publisher has the more flexible options for that in terms of like creating a web page and stuff like that. But I don't know if it has like that as many sophisticated tools. I would have to look more into it, but probably Publisher. If you have if you have all three of the programs, I would look up web design in Publisher and see if that gives you some flexibility there in terms of what you can do. So I have this image here of a woman, and the background's very red. I assume it was a real red background when it was photographed. But if you zoom in, you can kind of see like the red has kind of bled into the white of the shirt here. And what we can do is we can actually, you may or may not want to select the woman, isolate her, and remove that red from the sides. So let's do that. I'll use a selection brush here. And this is an Affinity photo, by the way. Vegas guy, how could you access PMS colors in the Affinity suite of tools? I'm not exactly sure what that is. So document, I would assume it's something, color format, ICC profile. If you go to document, in terms of whenever someone says color, I think of document, convert format or these ICC profiles up here. So I'd say check that out. Yeah, let me go back to the selection here. So I'll select her. And I'll click refine here. So I'll select refine. And so color decontamination, I'll clean up this edge here just a little bit. Everything's red, so it's kind of hard to think. Oh, Pantone color swatches. Okay. Yeah, I'm not exactly familiar with that. If you're talking about the palettes, I can show you that after I check this out. Remind me if I forget. But if you open up the palette interface, like window, palettes, maybe it's in swatches. Down here you can see some Pantone things. So that's the swatches menu. So I'd say check that out. Window, swatches. So let me know if that helps you out there. So anyway, we're on this refine thing here. Now color decontamination helps. Glad it worked out. Color decontamination works when we select the output as a new layer or a new layer with a mask. So let me select this here. I'll select apply. And let me hide the old one. So what happened is, sometimes it's more successful than others. But it kind of tries to take out the color on the edges a little bit. And if I turn this off, yeah, you can see what happens. Like I said, sometimes it works better than others. But let me try that one more time. I'm just going to refine that edge. I'm not going to worry about the left side of her. Refine, matte. Let's go over to the edge here. And let's do new layer with mask. Looks a little bit better. So what happened is, you can see it took out a lot of the red on the edge here, okay, compared to our original image. Like our original image, this is the original, it has like this red fringing there, and then when we look at what it gave us, it actually was able to take it out fairly well. And the way it does that is it actually modifies your image a little bit. So if I turn off the mask, this is what it did to kind of fix the problem. If I zoom in, it added in this white part here to kind of get rid of the red. But when you turn on the mask, it looks good. But that's the way, that's the trick it uses to get rid of that. So you want to keep these, enabled together. So the question is like, don't you want that to always happen? And, maybe you do when you're selecting things out of photographs and stuff like that. But I think it's good to have an option to not use it. So it's not used when you do the other options. So if I do the normal selection, which is selector, I'll do refine again. And I'll just create the output as a mask. This won't do it, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so this method didn't do it. Okay. Now, maybe you want that, maybe you don't. It depends on your situation. But I think it's good to just have the option of not enabling it if you want. So that's how you do that there. But again, I made a whole video on that. So if you want the deep dive, I'd recommend checking that out. But yeah, there are situations where you want it and situations where you don't. So you can choose which one you want. And next, I think this is my last question I have so far. Let me know if you guys have more questions you want me to check out. Got this question from James. He says he's used several AI image generators, but none allow him to select specific image sizes before creating the image. And this can be a problem because when you do POD designs and t-shirt designs, they always specify a specific size. Yeah, so typically what I've seen is that the AI tools, they don't let you specify the pixel resolution, but they let you specify the ratio of pixels. So what would happen is, let me find like some t-shirt template online. Something that like says pixels or something. Let's see. Just trying to find an example of something that like specifies. I had one up before. Yeah, this one. Okay, so let me copy this. Okay, so say like you're trying to put your design on a t-shirt and it says like 75 by 1200 pixels. Well, you can't like, maybe you can't exactly generate that exact pixel size, but what you can do is you can generate the ratio. So that would be like, 75 to 12 or something, right? The width versus height. Or 750 seems very small. They probably mean 1750 or something. I don't know. But anyway, maybe that is what they mean. Is there a better example? Placeit has a lot of these examples there. Well, I'll just go with this. So yeah, the key is like you don't want to generate something in this exact size, but you can do it with the ratio. And usually in Midjourney, I know like you can add the tag to do you can do like the aspect ratio, and then it can do like, so you can do like 75 to 12, right? Or 120. And you could type the whole thing. Just like make the ratio this to that. And that just simplifies it for you, and it figures out exactly what this ratio is, So that's how you actually do it. You don't specify the exact size, you specify the ratio of the output you want, and then you upscale it later using an upscaling tool. So that's kind of the way I do it. Calculate the ratio, and then from there, upscale it, and it'll fit the size you need. So that was basically all I had for today. We're almost at the end. So I'll stay on for another couple minutes if you guys have any more questions. Once again, next week I'll be off, and I think a lot of other people will too for the holidays, so I won't be around on the weekend. I'll be back on the 8th, a week after that. And like I said, yeah, the Affinity sale is 50% off. I don't know when it's ending, but probably I'd say it's going to be around for a week or so. But, grab it if you're still on the fence. This is about as cheap as it gets. And, the Creative Fabrica one is also very cool. I use it a lot for graphics and downloads and stuff like that. But yeah, I might do, speaking of Midjourney, which I was just talking about, I was thinking of doing a stream on that soon. I have to kind of plan it and, figure out what examples to show and all that. But if you guys are interested in it, certainly let me know. Or if there's any other AI tools you're interested in, I could do like a tutorial on that. It's definitely a big subject, but I think there's a lot to talk about there. It's a quite a powerful tool. It's always changing, but it's you can kind of do a snapshot of where it is right now. We could review. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Hector, and thanks, Teak. I hope you guys are on for suffering from the storm or the hurricane over there are doing okay. Your windows stay intact and all that. Thanks, 2112 too. And yeah, that's basically all I have today. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks again, and happy holidays, and have a good one. Bye.